Peace and blessings. What's up, man? Got another episode of the Godcast Lito's Rant. We got a special guest today, a very special guest. Today, we go hard in the paint. I said we going hard in the paint. Bro, I don't think they understand what I'm saying.
I go hard in the paint.
We going hard in the paint, man. We got Gold Chain Grubb in the building. We got Hard in the Paint Sports Media, Black owned. We got Tulane basketball commentator. The brother's been on ESPN. We got a writer at the Bird Rights. You know his voice from the Bird Calls. MLB bro. We got Believe Saints. We got Detroit born, New Orleans raised, Edna Carr America educated. You know what I'm saying? We got a Wake Forest alum, but most importantly, and this is important, we got a girl dad. This man is the real deal, and this is way overdue. It's my fault. Y'all blame me. I'm highly elated to be speaking with my OG, Mr. David Grubb. But first,
don't never forget about where you come from. Stay focused and look out for your people, man, because they got a lot of people that ain't got nothing. And I done seen a lot of cats separate from their people and don't do nothing for them when they get up there. Don't get that big head. That big head to be stars, like my folks say. Stars this year won't be stars next year. It's about longevity. If you ain't got no longevity set in your heart and you ain't got the mind frame to stick to this, you might as well give it up before you start.
Keep telling y'all, Juvenile is the wise old owl. He has seen it all. He has heard it all. He has done it all. This podcast is sponsored to you by Birds All Law, firm the official injury lawyers of Boo Crew Media, located at 918 Porter Street by the Superdome. Give them a call, 504-523-5413. If you or somebody you know is involved in an accident, please be sure to mention we sent you. Listen, girl, before I let you get a word in, I got to say this. This is special for me, and I want to give you your flowers. Like, before we get into anything, I want to give you your flowers. You didn't know me from a can of paint. You ain't know me from a hole in the wall. You walked up to me at this Chalk Talk some years ago, and you said this to me, and it literally sticks with me. Everything I do, I literally refer to it. You said, keep being myself. You told me to follow my voice, and that's what I've been doing. And when I do something, or before I do something, I sit back and I say, damn, is that me? Is that something that, like, I feel comfortable looking at down the line, saying or doing? Like, do I want people to see me in that light? Or, like, should I do this thing? And y'all gotta blame Grubb for me, man, because, like, you know, so if y'all mad at me, you know what I'm saying? And you had me on your platform when nobody knew who I was, like, nobody would really talk to me. Like, I'll forever appreciate you. And I'm going to sit down with my Uncle Reggie Flood. Shout out to Uncle Reg. I'll be tapping in here with him soon. So Uncle Reg, you stay ready. We coming. But anyways, thanks for everything, OG. And I just want to say I appreciate you.
Man, you know, whether it's you or Chris or Five, anybody that's come up to me and talked to me, Chaz, you know, particularly the young brothers in the industry who are coming up in a different time. You know, and y'all have to do it a different way. It's a completely different hustle from when I started. And the only thing that breaks through that I have found that's consistent, no matter the time, the place, or the era, is authenticity. You know, everything else is temporary. Everything else is temporary because, you know, it's like, and I know we're probably going to talk music at some point, but it's like, you know, one of the things I was listening to Bomani Jones and Michael Smith and Toure talk about hip hop, and you know, it's that thing that it used to be where New York sounded like New York, LA sounded like LA, Houston sounded like Houston, you know, New Orleans sounded like New Orleans, not in a way that was bad. It was in a way that was authentic, that you knew what those cities and that culture was about. Memphis, whatever, Jackson, Mississippi, Atlanta, Miami, everything sounded different, but it was authentic. Chicago, Detroit, all of them had a different vibe. Seattle had its own hip hop vibe. You know what I'm saying? And it's like today now, with everything in social media and so many people just retweeting the same stuff, the only way to get through the noise is to be authentic, because people recognize honesty and authenticity. They will accept the common because it's available, but they will remember the real.
And that's real. And listen, that's literally like why you're here. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's certain people you can get gems from that, you know, like other things are like just conversations, but like, man, you like talking to like a family member. Like, I got you remind me, I swear to God, I have an uncle named Rob, my uncle Robin, man. He live in BR. Like, it's literally like talking to him. Like, he always got a gem, and it's always in like a metaphorical form related to either hip hop or music, or, you know what I'm saying? But thank you for that. And I appreciate that, because like a lot of times, especially like with how carbon copied everything is today, it's like, damn, it's like you scared to say how you feel, or you scared to put out what you actually like think, because your thoughts and opinions are like left and everybody's going right. But at the end of the day, I don't feel comfortable. I would not feel comfortable doing what everybody else is doing if I don't agree with it. You know what I'm saying? So, but I want to ask you this, because you spoke on this, and I really hate streaming. I loved when you were from Compton and you took me to your neighborhood and you gave me your slangs and your vernacular. You showed me how you dress. Or when you were in New York and you had your Adidas on, and you had your leather jackets, or if you were in, DC and you had your foams or your New Balance on, right? What do you think about the state of hip hop at 50?
I mean, I think nothing is ever dead, but hip hop is where rock and roll is. You know what I mean? Like, rock and roll is no longer counterculture music. It's mainstream. You know what I'm saying? Like, when the Rolling Stones were coming up, they were counterculture. Now, up until they stopped touring, they were the most sold out group ever. They became just part of the culture. And hip hop started out as a counterculture art form. Supposed to tear the system down because the system had neglected us. It is the product of schools not having music programs. You understand? You know what I'm saying? It is the product. People have to understand the history of it. Look up the Hoe Street negotiations. And I know people, Hoe Avenue, negotiations.
Okay.
People will think it's like, oh, that's silly. No. It's HOE Avenue in New York City. And that is literally this negotiation between gangs in New York that they decided, we're not going to fight over turf. Like, where you is where you is. You cross through, everybody's cool. And this was the longest and the first, and it was the longest gang truce in America. Wow. And because of that, cats got to go into Brooklyn and hear stuff. Cats got to go into Queens and hear stuff. Cats got to go into Bronx and hear stuff. And that's why hip hop, the parties were able to happen, was because of a political movement. You know what I'm saying?
I never knew that.
Yeah, look it up.
I never knew that. I feel you, man. Like, it's lost its way, and I understand when you say it's not dead. I'll be honest. I feel like it's dead, and I know it's not like dying, but I feel like, well, I know for sure that hip hop I grew up on, the music that I love. I'm not a mainstream guy anyway. I always was in the more like backpack. I'm in the lyrics. I'm in the things like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when I listen to, I try not to hate on I'm calling them kids, but like I try not to hate on the new stuff, because I just understand it's not for me, but it still feels like the substance is missing from it. And like when I think about my little cousins, or like now my daughter, like I want them to have that substance, that thing that gave you that feeling that made you be like, I'll never forget this. I was on a field trip. I was sitting next to this kid I didn't know. We were going play basketball probably. I don't even remember, but I just remember he had his Walkman. I was listening. I had my Discman. I was listening to the Big Timers. Probably volume 2. I don't remember exactly which one. He was listening to Outkast Aquemini. Halfway through the trip, we traded my first time hearing Outkast. it blew my mind. I was like, dog, what is this? I'm probably in 7th grade. I don't know. I think, and he was like, man, it's Outkast. And then he had AT Aliens. He had the first one. Man, I listened to that shit it blew my mind. Like, I want that feeling for them. I want them to understand like what that feels like.
We're in a disposable era by and large, because like I saw this thing with Ice-T talking on Instagram, and he was saying that you don't have to make albums anymore. It's like an album was a story, and you crafted that thing. It was supposed to give you different moods, because when you had to play it on a 45 or you had to play it on an LP, and for folks who are too young, a big record, when you had to play the record, you wasn't getting up. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not getting up to lift it up and lift that handle up and keep moving. You got to sit. So somebody had to craft something that was going to make you sit down for that side, and then to flip it over and make you sit down for that side and listen to it. And now, because YouTube has replaced sales, streams have replaced sales, you don't have to make an album. You just got to make a record, like a single. And that's kind of like what we got in the early 60s. You know what I'm saying? Like when music just became nothing but pop for a minute, and it was just singles. People were just putting out records, but not albums. You look at even Motown, which Motown as a mainstream, you take it compared to Stax, which you would say is Stax is Keeping It Real records. And Motown is polished mainstream black music, where Motown would have every artist doing the same records, right? Doing the same records, 5 different versions of Just My Imagination, but if whoever it hit with, that's who it goes with. Whoever it hits with I Heard It through the grapevine, that's who gets it. Yeah. So that's all we're doing now, because it's the same beats, the same records. Scientifically, they have proven that the audio is getting more and more homogenic. So it's all sounding the same. The rhythms are the same. So it's to sell. It's to produce commerce. It's not art right now. It is just commerce. And as long as it's commerce, cats want to be. And one of my very good friends is a legitimate hip hop artist, Nitty Scott. I had her on my podcast. I love Nitty. She is a lyricist beyond measure. Just check her out.
I'm gonna check it out.
And I had her on the podcast, and we were talking about this, and it's just. And she talks about it like so many of your favorites that you think are artists, their stuff is being written by other people. And it's just for a reason. It is just to get you to buy this commerce. There are not as many artists. There are just products, people who are choosing to be famous through rap music. That's not hip hop.
Yep.
Hip hop is a culture. Rapping is a commercial thing. Hip hop is a culture. And I think we got to remember which is which, because the culture might be 50 years old, but I don't know if the culture is healthy. Because the music might be selling, and it might be the most ubiquitous art form in the world right now. Nobody copies it more. Nobody uses it more. It's in country music. You know what I'm saying? It's in classical music. What people will bridge it with anything. They will find a way to make a hip hop lean to it. But does that mean it's in a good place artistically? And is that a good thing, that if you're trying to tear the culture down, that you're represented everywhere within it? I don't know.
It got to a point where like I feel like people started looking for acceptance outside of their people. You started needing validation outside of the thing that validated you. Like, I feel like it's many problems. Like you said, as far as music not being in schools, the music industry is the main problem. Like, the music industry is like having insurance. It's just a racket, right? But the thing is, like, it's
sharecropping. The music industry is sharecropping.
That's all it is. It literally is. And these kids, the thing is, like, these kids think that they get into the music industry or they want to be rappers, and you think you're gonna be like, Jay-Z or Wayne or Kanye. Like, these guys, these are like once in a lifetime guys. That doesn't happen.
And what's the price that they had to pay to get there, though?
Man, you have no idea.
You know what I'm saying? Look at what you do know. Wayne had the medical problems he's had, the addiction problems that he's had, the battles he's had with people that he thought loved him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The people that raised him in the industry, he still had to battle them. So for all that, the most intimate relationships of your life, the women that you know, all those things that you produce children with, but you couldn't produce a relationship. You think there aren't things that he would do over, that he would trade some of his fame and his money for? You know what I'm saying? Like cats, like you say, they think it's easy, but even the stuff we don't know. Look at Kanye. Look at Kanye. To go from the understanding of the power of your genius to using it in the most destructive way for yourself. Not again, a dude who started off wanting to break the system down and is now the representative for the system.
It's crazy, man. Like, you know, that whole like live long enough to see yourself become the villain thing. It's real. Like you, especially in him, because the dichotomy, the many sides of Kanye, he's a complex, as we all are. Like as a human, you're complex. There's just not one side of you. But to see the things he went through, to see you know what? The crazy thing about it is I feel like everything that he rapped early on, even the backpack aspect of it, he was trying to lead himself to the guy that he is now. He was trying to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we believed him. You know, like we thought he was just saying like, when you get on to leave your ass with a white girl, like, you know what I'm saying? Like little slick shit like that. Go ahead.
I'll tell you this, as somebody who suffers from bipolar disorder, and you could talk, if you ask my ex-wife, when Kanye first came out, I said, he's one of us. Like I said, like, he's one of us. Because the things that he was doing to say before he acknowledged it, you know, because remember, it took him almost a decade to acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
I told, and I don't usually do that. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I don't like to diagnose people from afar. But like everything with Kanye, that the prove it that he had with Jay-Z, that need for approval of having to get one of them to and then not being able to deal with Dame. You know what I'm saying? Like to stay with Jay, but not be able to really break it with Dame and be like that is very bipolar. And then to get to the point where, man, the God complex, I know I figured it out. I alone have the answers. Man, I've been there. Yeah. I have been there. Yeah. And I've said those things. And I've said the craziest stuff at different parts of my life when I was not medicated and was not aware of what I was doing. And so when I saw that in him, I was just like, yeah. I mean, like you could see why he was like with Kim and him, and I was like, well, he's not doing it. Yeah. You can see that for years. It was coming. Yeah. You don't walk on the stage and do what no, I would have done that stuff. I would have done that.
Yeah, I mean, him too, like, especially like having that much the money and the power and the respect, you got a bunch of enablers around you also. So it probably made it 10 times worse for him because especially when you talk about the God complex of things, it's like, yeah, like, bro, especially like getting to the point where you're a billionaire, you're a black billionaire. Fuck, what are you gonna tell me? You know?
You know how rare that is? Yeah.
You know, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
But you can't ever be wrong because every time you fail, it's not his fault. Yeah. They didn't get it. They didn't get it. And that's but that psychology still that goes over to sports. It goes over to sports. It is the irrational thing that we look for, the psychotic nature of the greatest athletes and also the greatest failures in athletes is either their inability to understand who they are or that pure ability to lock out everything and always think that they're great.
You know, it's funny you say that. I often like talk to them. Like my mom has this thing where like she doesn't like arrogance in hoopers or like, you know, whoever. I try to get her to see the other side of it. I always say you don't get there without that. You don't find, you're not. Look at MJ, right? Look at Kobe. Look at Brian, probably like the most.
Let's go to the nice ones.
Okay.
Let's start with Magic.
Yep.
Who people think is the nicest dude ever.
Yep.
And then every story you hear is about Magic cheating dudes in pickup games.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Making sure that he stacks the deck to win if it's going to happen, doing whatever it takes. He may not be on the level of Jordan in that because as far as that sickness goes.
Yeah.
But we think Magic is a nice guy, but Magic his whole life, that's why he left as a GM for the Lakers because He wasn't winning the way Magic wanted to win.
Yep.
He said, I don't want to be Irvin. I want to be Magic. When you are an adult human being and you can decide that you don't want to be who you actually are.
That's crazy.
And you can choose, I don't want to be Irvin. I want to be Magic.
It's crazy when you put that. When you put that like that, that's crazy. That is legitimately like not in an insane way, but just the fact that like you have that option, you know. But Steph, bro, like people think Steph is such a nice guy. This man
insane.
He's legitimately crazy. He will shoot the ball or he will shoot a basketball and literally just turn his back and run down that is so disrespectful. Like that's so fucking disrespectful. Like man, there's no way Steph is about to keep doing that no, I'm gonna have to touch Steph up at some point.
But he knows, even if you do, like going back to when he was at, in college, and I remember watching him at Davidson. Yeah. Because especially when you live around North Carolina, you pay attention to those kind of things. And it was like they was trying to touch him up. They tried it, but that dude, again, that's the difference between him and Steph. That's the difference. Skill wise, essentially, they both can shoot it from anywhere. They both, you know what I mean, high percentage 3-point shooters. But it's Steph believed in a way that nobody else ever did. That's why at Davidson, you can take 4 dudes that no one will ever remember to the Elite 8.
Right there.
To the Elite 8. Zion Williamson couldn't take nobody to the Elite 8. I'm not saying it to back. I'm saying
I know
that dude, a 6'2" at the time, 145-pound guard, took 4 white guys from nowhere to the Elite 8 and almost won that mug.
That dude different, man. Like that, but that's greatness, right? Like that's what greatness is. Like that is literally greatness personified. Tim Duncan. People think Tim's a nice guy. Like I mean, there's so many stories of Tim Cole. There's stories of Amari Stoudemire or like whoever coming out and talking about how like Tim would talk, but he would talk in a manner that wasn't disrespectful, but he would get his point across. But that's what greatness is. But listen, we got more music and sports to get to. I want to get to the beginning. You born in Detroit, right? So tell us about the Motor City and like, are there any similarities to New Orleans?
Detroit and New Orleans are so similar. It's so similar because you got anybody who's ever been to Detroit, it's a lot of Southern influence. It's people from Louisiana, from Alabama, from Mississippi, who moved up there when the auto industry started booming. So, I've always had family up there from both sides of my family. And it's a city full of working Black folk, just like New Orleans. It's a city where you have way too much talent. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way there should be this many talented people around each other at one time. You think about what all the names of people from Detroit. Think about it, and then do the same with New Orleans. Just on the size of the cities and the poverty and the things that people have had to deal with, but what's been produced. Not just, I ain't talking just about athletes or entertainers. I'm talking, mental, giants, people who change the world come from these places, and it's real. You know what I'm saying? The same like how people say, if you embrace New Orleans, it'll love you back forever. That's Detroit. But you don't, it's the same. Don't come in New Orleans acting like you better than New Orleans. You know what I mean? We're not here for that. New Orleans, that is not what New Orleans is going to have. That is the same thing with Detroit. If you come in Detroit and you want to talk that, and people do that, Detroit is a raggedy. Okay. If you come here, you're going to have to defend that. They will not let that slide. And New Orleans is the same way. Detroit is a petty, petty place, just like New Orleans. And again, music is part of the lifeblood. And that music has a lot of pain in it. And that music has also been cleaned up for the world. And the tragedies of those cities, the destruction of those cities in different ways, whether it's the riots in the 60s for Detroit that changed that city forever, or it's the Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. There's a political part that goes on in both of those. in the rewriting the history of those cities and watching the reshaping of them today, there are a lot of parallels too. So there's so much and they are polar opposites temperature wise,
For
but
sure.
but the conditions couldn't be more similar.
You said something interesting as far as like the talent. Do you think the curse of the talented is a real thing? And do you think that poverty produces, like, it gives you an overt number of talented people?
I think it makes you take the risk. If you're comfortable, even if you have, if you can sing, but you got money already, what you gonna sing for?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a risk. I don't need to take that risk. But when you're coming out of poverty, you are willing to do that work, to put everything that you have into that, because you have to be better. Like, that's why when we look at Joe Jackson and what he put his boys through, and I'm not going to debate that, right? But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I
That
understand.
effort, that singular type of effort to do that. For him, that wasn't about singing. That's about getting the hell out of Gary, Indiana. You know what I'm saying? So if you're comfortable, if I already live in comfort, that's why people who are comfortable don't box. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point? Even if I could, even if I was agile, and why would I be out there getting hit in the face if I got money already?
Yeah.
So there's got to be a desire to take that risk, I think. And that's why we think the greatest art comes from pain, because pain, if you haven't, it's that famous line in the 5 Heartbeats, Donald Matthews would be a great writer when he experiences more pain. It's because he hadn't lived life. And I think we have to go, Black people, poor people, people who come from different struggles, whatever it is, when you have gone through more, your story is more vibrant.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah. Like that was well fucking said. Let me ask you this question. You do a whole lot of stuff. You do a lot, like writing, podcasting, right? Like, again, you own your own network, and that's fire. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
What got you interested into sports media? How did you find your way there? Like, who did you look up to?
When I was younger, I was in it for the wrong reasons when I started, because
Okay.
I thought that I wanted to be on TV. You know what I mean? Like, I was just trying to be on SportsCenter.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the right reason. I never enjoyed it when I was doing that. I enjoyed telling stories. I enjoyed being on practice fields and talking to coaches because I love sports. I love that part of it. But the sitting on an anchor desk and reading the scores, I hated that. I hated it. So I left the industry for about 12 years.
Wow.
12 years. I was completely out of it. I was doing public relations and marketing, working on political campaigns, that kind of stuff. And I happened to be working at Southern University in New Orleans. And while I was there, they needed me to be the SID. And I started writing stories about those young people and traveling with them to games and seeing, again, what it really meant to love the game, because they didn't have it. Man, I was on trips where we paid for everything in cash. The school didn't have a credit card for us. So we had an envelope full of cash for a road trip for these young ladies going to play volleyball. And you get to the hotel and you got to pay for it in cash. Every meal is paid for in cash. You got to make sure everybody's eating on the right budget because you only got a certain amount of cash. And I will tell you, there are times I had to chip in because they didn't send us with enough. And when you're around that and those kids still go out and play
and
compete hard in front of nobody half the time, man, that reawoken something. Like, I was like, I love telling these stories. I love talking to them. I started sitting again with the coaches and talking about strategy and what they saw. And I loved it. And then I started asking people, well, what can I do? So I called somebody and I was just like, do you know anybody who's just looking for somebody to be a reporter? And at the time, Ken Trahan had started at what was called then sportsnola.com, which is now Crescent City Sports. And he was like, I don't have no money, but you can start doing LSU. And that's where I started. And then it became Pelicans. And then it became high school. And then it just started snowballing from there. And I didn't look back. And I just started adding different things to my repertoire because I was so in love with it.
Yeah.
That I wanted to do everything. I mean, I did graphics, I did posters to get people to come to games, I did stories, I did video, I did whatever because I loved it. I loved it, and I still do.
What year was this that you were I guess you were with Southern and you were taking the trips with them?
It was 2013.
2013.
Yeah.
So 2013 on forward, that's when you got the itch back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And I give a lot of credit to Elston King in particular because he who's the SID. I mean, it was the athletic director and the head women's basketball coach at the time, and him, he pushed me to take on more because he was like, "You want to do something?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Well, do it." And then Kiki Baker Barnes, who's not a commissioner, Dr. Kiki Baker Barnes, who's now the commissioner of the GCAC, she always pushed me to do better, and we pushed each other because she was, she's relentless. If you know her, you know that she will outwork anybody, and her attitude is that she will not be beat. And so we always saw eye to eye in that regard, that we wanted the best for those student athletes. And when you're around people like that, you can't help but be motivated.
I know Kiki well, man. Shout out to Dr. Kiki. I was at Dillard when she was at Dillard, so it was fun times. Question, because you mentioned women's athletics. How do you feel about people who say, I already know how you feel because I think it's stupid, but like I overheard a conversation this past weekend of don't watch women's basketball because they can't dunk. I feel like people miss the whole point of the beauty of the game when you literally are taking one part of a game that they so-called can't do, because I've seen a lot of women dunk. So I don't even know. I forgot my girl name at Stanford right now, but she's two-handed it. So like I feel like that's bullshit. That's just it's a bullshit thing to say. And like they, in my opinion, they're more fundamentally sound than the men because they have to be. Their game is beautiful. I just was watching Alyssa Thomas before we got her on. Like Alyssa Thomas at halftime had 8 points, 8 assists, 6. Like it's a beautiful brand of basketball. Anyways, I just wanted to see what you thought about that.
First, I think, there's a very old saying that is very easy to understand. Comparison is the thief of joy. Women's basketball is not men's basketball.
Yep.
It's not. I don't ask it to be.
Yep.
Because because I discriminate against men's basketball at different levels, right? There's men's basketball I don't watch. So don't let me be because it's about the dunk, because there are plenty of men's games that have dunks that I don't want to watch. So they could have 50 dunks in them. And I'd be like, that was a horrible game. I didn't want to see that. So don't that's not what it's about. And that's not what sports is about. We watch sports for competition.
Yep.
The level of competition. You want to see people competing and wanting it at the highest level. The reason people always complain about athletes is not their skill level, is because you don't see the desire on the court, right? That's what the anger is about. Right now between fans and athletes is the fans feel like they want it more than the players. That's not the problem over in the women's game. They don't have that problem over there because they're fighting for jobs when you got first round picks that can't get in with their teams multiple years because there aren't enough jobs for it. So everybody's got to compete in that league because if you don't, there are 20 women, not 2, not 3. There's 20 women starving for the chance to take your one spot. And so I think when you watch the women's game, like you said, if you're telling me it's about skill, then you're lying.
Right.
Sabrina, all right, that's good. What are we talking about?
Shit, dog.
What are we talking about?
Shit, dog.
Brianna Stewart, what are we talking about? You know what I'm saying? What are we talking about?
Steve Cole. Who your favorite WNBA player? Do you have a favorite?
I mean, until she retires, it's Candace.
I respect that.
Until she retires, it's Candace. She's not the best player in the league anymore. My favorite player probably is a healthy Elena Delle Donne. I fell in love with her in college, her game, and just she's the only thing that's ever stood in her way is health.
She is my favorite WNBA player. She is when, like you said, when healthy, man, that woman is incredible. Number 2 for me is Chelsea Gray. Bro, I love Chelsea Gray so much. Her game is like, because when you think of it, she's a scorer at her core. Like she's a bucket getter. Her mid range is crazy. She has a crazy handle, but the way she's been passing the ball this year has just been like a revelation for them, especially. And then Candace joins that team. So,
to me, like, I'm gonna just say this real quick. We just went through the 25th year for the WNBA, right?
Yeah.
The NBA is 75 years old.
Right.
Let's go look at the film of the NBA at 25 and look at the evolution between 25 and 75. Women have only had equal access to sports, excuse me, since Title IX. We just talking about 30 years of Title IX.
Yep.
And even that, they had to fight for enforcement. The same way we as Black folks know that 1865 did not end slavery. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So for us to be judging women's sports, even though the leaps since they've gotten these opportunities more and more have been astronomical, where 10 years ago you knew the 4 schools in the Final Four before they even started the season.
Yep.
And now you have a game where women across the country legitimately feel like they have a chance to win, and the women's tournament is bringing in more ratings than the men. Give it time.
Yep.
And if you're against it, why are you against entertainment that even if you don't like it, how can you be against it? That's the part I don't understand. I don't understand people who are against it. It's
just ignorant. It's a real ignorance. Like it's a real, and Twitter brings that out. The internet is not a real place. And to be honest, like I tell people all the time, like, again, you don't have to watch it. Like, you don't have to watch it. Like, you could totally ignore it. But like, to be against it, I see comments all the time. I can't wait till the WNBA folds. Like, why? Why would you wish that?
Like, these are people's jobs. It's not your money. I don't get it. And personally, I do think the best thing for the WNBA would be to break away from the NBA.
I agree.
And get real ownership away from that league. Because as long as that league is in control, I think it's going to slow down the growth. They need to expand at least by 4 teams over the next year to get that league. There's a huge amount of talent just sitting outside of the league.
I mean, I can't think of the girl from the young lady from LSU's name who got drafted and she didn't end up making the team.
The last 2 years LSU's had that. Alexis
Beard.
No, not Beard.
Not Beard.
But Alexis Johnson.
Alexis Johnson. So, I think you're right. So Alexis was just saying that the amount of talent in the WNBA was incredible. College is talented, of course, but like the amount of talent and the amount of skill that they had and knowing how to work within the system was something that she said college has to catch up to. And I thought that was very telling.
College basketball has not ever been about preparing you for the NBA or the pros. Because look, what do people always say about Dean Smith? So what do people always say about Mike Krzyzewski?
Yep.
I don't think you can intentionally coach people to be prepared for the next level. The things you're trying to teach for the next level, can you think the game of basketball? I think the coaches who teach their players to think the game of basketball generally do well. And then you cannot replace actual talent. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter if you don't have the talent, you're not going to make it. But I think it's that ability to think and that ability to be taught. Those are the players who make it. Those are players who can adapt and continue. Because there's plenty of talented guys who probably should be in the NBA, but they couldn't adapt to their situation. They either could not adjust to a coach telling them something, or they could not find that place that fit their game, or they couldn't adjust their game to fit into what that group needed. And that's any job, right? That's any job. There's a dude at McDonald's and they hired him to be on fries, And every day he burned the fries.
Yep.
No matter how they try to teach him, he burning them fries.
It's such his life, man. You gotta figure that shit out. Let me ask you this: do you have you've interviewed a lot of people? I know me and you have talked off camera before. You told me, you spoke to Kobe. And you told me how your daughter got her name, which I think is dope. Do you have a dream? Do you have a wish list of dream interviews? And I guess who's the most famous person so far you have interviewed?
For a full interview,
Yeah.
Then that has to be, I think, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, for just being able to sit down for a long amount of time. And it was just because I initiated it. I've gotten to interview, Dr. J and Kobe and stuff like that, but that's not me engineering that. That's opportunity. The first conversation with Mahmoud was strictly because we hit it off in a hallway at a hotel in New Orleans during NABJ, and he was headed there for an honor, and we met then. We talked for 10 minutes. He gave me his phone number, and from there we developed a rapport. And so, I think just that, and that was the first episode I ever recorded. And because of that, I think I was willing to continue to go forward. That conversation changed my life in having it and in the results of it.
I've never met him, but everybody who I know who has spoken to him just tells me how he's such a good brother. His genuineness, it resonates on camera. Like you can see it. I mean, and he was a bucket. He got railroaded. He was a bucket, man. People don't like to hear this or say this, but you look at Steph, he was definitely Steph before Steph. Like the NBA wasn't playing the type of way that he was. How he played, he was definitely ahead of his time. That's dope.
Man, he was an event. I was 14 years old, when he hit LSU's campus. And there was nothing like that dude. I had never seen anybody that fast who could shoot from everywhere, and then was still dropping two-handed dunks on people and catching lobs. And it was like, the handles were so ridiculous. His ability to string together big games. And then you saw just when he was starting to figure it out in the NBA, he got blackballed. And it was just, like you said, he was ahead of his time. But the players know. And that's the one thing, is like, when I do talk to other NBA players about him and I mention his name, they know. They know.
Give me a rapper who you feel like had all the talent in the world, but they could not put it together. Because it's funny you say that about Mahmoud, and I was thinking, usually for whatever reason that happens. As soon as the light comes on, something else happens. Like life's like that. Give me a person who you think, dang, this dude got it all, but it just did not come together. I'll tell you what, either a rapper, you could give me either a rapper or a basketball player.
Okay. Now there's a couple for that. Okay, from one of the rappers that I would say, sadly, I still say, as I told Chris, I think it's almost like it's Method Man.
Grubb, listen, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but you led me. I was literally about to walk you there. Chris Connor told me this. He mentioned it to me. He told me about the Method Man Vince Carter comparison. And for people who didn't hear, can you just walk them through it?
If you were building a perfect rapper / basketball player, you're building both of those guys. Method Man has everything you want in a rapper. He has stage presence. He has delivery. He can make hooks. He can do guest verses. He can do a whole song by himself. He attracts the women. The fellas are not threatened by him in that regard. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't feel like a dude that's doing stuff for the women.
Yeah.
And he had everything. Television, you know, he can act, all of it. He's got all of it. And not a single great album. Not a single great album. He got great songs. He got great moments. His highs are as high as anybody's. Not a single great album. And the same thing I'll say for Vince Carter. He has everything. Every NBA player you talk to will say, I ain't never seen anybody as physically gifted as Vince Carter, who could do everything that Vince could do for as long as Vince could do it. And you never got a great album out of Vince. Never first team All-NBA, never an NBA Finals, never a scoring championship. You never got an all-defensive team. You never got to the conference finals. You know what I'm saying? So to me, and you could pair Vince with anybody, right? Like, you put Meth with anybody, it's going to be great. You pair Vince with Tracy, and it works.
Yeah.
You pair Vince with, you know, whomever. It didn't matter. When he was in New Jersey, you got him with Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd was getting in buckets. Whatever you got to do, Vince was going to work. It was going to work. He wasn't going to be a problem, but you weren't going to get nothing. You weren't going to get no Grammys. You weren't going to get, you know what I'm saying? The same, like Meth will sell platinum, but it ain't going to win nothing because there's too many skips. There's too many skips.
That's crazy. That's a crazy comparison. Like, hey, and that's so beautifully said. What do you think is missing? Like, what is missing?
I think just that, you know, putting an album together, like we talked about, is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. The one thing I think that, you know, that once you start making hits and you do have a persona, then I think it can eat you up. And you feel like, I have to do this. I have, like, you know, the whole 2000 thing where he was dressed all in chainmail. It's like, you ain't had to do all that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, DMX never felt like he was being anybody but DMX. So that's why you could put out 3 #1 albums back to back to back in 18 months. And all of them were bangers. Like, nobody does that unless you are fully confident in what you're doing. And I think that Meth was rushed the first album because they had, you know, and then you start your Method Man. You got to be Method Man, and he was always being pushed out front. And I think that stunted his career. You know, it never got to be what it should have been.
The best Method Man album, hear me out, is not a Method Man album. Well, oh wow, I was about to be so blasphemous. The best Method Man album is a Wu-Tang album, but as far as like Meth goes, that Blackout album with him and Redman is probably his most cohesive body of work. I don't know, man. That's a good. You're right. Like Meth could do it all, but for me, and shout out to your shirt. If I'm listening to anybody in that group, man, Ghostface is like, what is
Ghostface is #1.
He's like the best. I would say probably my favorite. I was about to say something. I was about to speak.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna give you my 4 great stories.
All right.
Okay, it's Slick Rick.
Yep.
Biggie.
Yep.
Definitely, you know, as we just talked about. And then I think the 4th would be. Ooh, now I'm feeling it. I think the fourth has got to be Big Boy or Scarface. Is he the Big Boy or Scarface?
Yeah, Face is both of them, man. Like, me and Chris had this conversation. We should have recorded this, but it was a phone conversation. He randomly called me and he told me something about Outkast, and I was just like, I think I told him, I said, listen, nobody could account for Andre becoming Andre. I said, people give Big Boy shit because he rapped with an alien who matured and became an alien. But I said, Chris, them first 2 Outkast albums, Big Boy was incredible. He owned them. He was better than Dre. He was way better than Dre. Like, Dre didn't have his voice yet.
No, Dre really don't hit it till Equimini.
Yes.
That's what Dre gets crazy. But you could always tell Dre was talented, but he was sounding like Big Boy.
Yeah.
when they first started.
Yeah.
They were doing the same. But Big Boy was really that dude. And as you see, and I think his solo career has been slept on. And I think people
agree.
need to go look back at his solo career and see how good he really has been for as long as he's been. And that dude I got to see them at Last in Atlanta. I got to see the next to last show. And Childish Gambino was the opening act, and Kid Cudi.
Wow.
So it was a hell of a night. And yeah, it sucks that we didn't get more from Outkast. But I'm like that. The same thing with athletes, man. We only got 10 years of Barry Sanders. We only got 10 years of Jim Brown. We only got 10 years of Calvin Johnson. You're like, it is what it is, baby. You just got to enjoy what you had. And
the most important part of it is like, and I can probably say this: Calvin didn't have team success, and Jim's team success was very sparing. Also, Barry as well. The thing about Outkast is they gave you flawless projects, and they were all successful.
Yes.
Like there was no beat miss. Outkast is one of those groups where if 50 years from now, if aliens came, aliens are here, but if they came and you played that, they would think that shit is from the future. Like you would still think. I was in the gym the other day, and Bombs Over Baghdad came on, and man, you can like, what the hell were they doing to be that futuristic at that time? Nothing sounded like that.
Nothing does sound like that.
Still, right?
Nothing
still like that. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
When Southern Playalistic hit, and people forget, Players Ball hit first, and it was a Christmas record. And I still say it's one of the greatest Christmas records of all time. And it is, if you listen to it clearly, it is a Christmas song. There's so many Christmas references in it. And from then, I happened to be at school in North Carolina, and everybody I knew from Atlanta, and I was already on that. And so they hipped me to Outkast as soon as they had come out, and just there was nothing like it. It's the same. There's certain times in my life when I heard things, and I would say the first time for sure was Public Enemy. That was like, what is that? I don't know what this is. I have to deal with this. Like my brain has to process. Second time was NWA. Like that was bizarre to me. That and Ghetto Boys. I played Ghetto Boys relentlessly on loop. Digital Underground. Like there's just certain groups that Tribe. Like when they hit me, and Outkast was one of those things where it's just they took something and did something that you had never heard or experienced, and they talked to you in a way that was so unique that it changed the game forever.
To bring this full circle, I was telling Chris, Big Boy had the best verse on its International Players Anthem to me. I think it's so slept on. Of course, Dre comes in. Dre is just special, man. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from him. Dre is special. I think Pimp set the tone. Bun B, of course, is Bun. It's so funny the similarities those two guys have, Pimp and Bun B. Pimp and Big Boy. Like, everybody looks at their group mate, like their group mate is alien. And Bun is and Bun is too. Like, Bun is an alien. Bun is one of those guys who will rap you off the planet. But like, none of that happens without Big Boy or Pimp C. Big Boy for sure. He was the guy who, like, while Andre could be in outer space, Dre kept the group on Earth. He made it so like every man could understand what was going on. And the same with Pimp. Like Pimp was more you know what? I can't even say that. I was about to say Pimp was more flamboyant than Big Boy. Big Boy was pretty. He was calling himself Daddy Fat Sacks, man. Like he was.
But he was accessible though.
Yeah.
He looked like a dude. You know what I'm saying? Like even when he was, whatever he wore on stage was still accessible. He wasn't wearing a turban. He wasn't wearing crazy fur on his pants. He was still rocking jerseys and braids and stuff. He looked like a dope boy. You know what I'm saying? It was two dope boys in a Cadillac. So he still looked that. Dre was inaccessible. And I would say if you took the two, Pimp C wearing a fur coat in Miami versus Bun rocking a baseball cap and a button down, you more likely to beat you Bun and Big Boy, like you said, the dudes who kept the group grounded, because Pimp wasn't about the people. You know what I'm saying? Pimp didn't want to be seen. Pimp didn't have time for you. He was about either his music or his money. He wasn't talking. He didn't want to talk to Jay-Z. He didn't want to talk to these. I'm not leaving my house. That kind of, eccentricity, you can't have a group if both dudes are like that. Somebody got to be accessible to the people. And that's why Bun can be out there selling hamburgers and teaching at universities at the same time.
Shout out to Bun, man. Bun's career arc is crazy. Like his evolution as a
pocket
as a
full of
human.
stones and stuff, bro. To like him and Snoop. Like I remember Snoop's murder trial, dude. And now he's selling Skechers. He's selling Skechers, dude.
I say this to Chris all the time. I think people forget Snoop is a Crip. He's a gangbanger.
He sold weed to Gwyneth Paltrow. In high school.
I did not know that. That's crazy. That's insane. Bun B. Another guy, right? But Bun B, the same thing with UGK. Those first 2 to 3 albums, like Pimp C was just the star of the show. And then Riding Dirty comes out and Bun raps on Murder. And it's just like, what is, like, how did you fit all those syllables in one line? Like, it was just insane to me. I got a question for you though, because I promise, Chris, this is the question that I've been telling you about. All right. We got the Method Man, Vince Carter comparison. Mm-hmm. I need your top 5 basketball players of all time, but I need you to cross-reference them to the rapper comparison.
Okay, my top 5 is my top 5.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's
absolutely. Yeah.
So my number 1 is going to be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Cap.
Start with the Cap. And Cap was timeless. He had the most unique shot in the history of basketball, but also the most effective. He played and beat more greats at his position. Think about it. The Hall of Fame centers, of the great Hall of Fame centers before Bill Russell, like everybody after Bill Russell, up to David Robinson, he played. Up to David Robinson. From everybody post Bill Russell to David Robinson, Kareem played against. Hakeem, Ralph Sampson, you name them, he touched them all. And, when he retired, he was the leading scorer of all time. I would say I compare him to LL Cool J. Okay. And for many of the same reasons that Method Man is not, LL is. You know what I'm saying? Like LL, again, is that dude, if you were building the perfect rapper from scratch, he's LL Cool J. Like he was solo. There was no attachment when he came up. You didn't know, it didn't matter who his DJ was. It didn't matter, nothing. Nothing mattered. He was LL Cool J. He was a solo star. Yeah. And he was a star to young people. He was the dude who was the first one to destroy what the old school was. And I think Kareem is that, from what that old school NBA from the late 70s, he's the bridge from that to the late 80s. He ends his retirement in 1989. That's the ascent of Jordan and the Pistons is all after that. To me, the golden era for what LL was, his peak, from when he hits in 84 and he steps on the scene as a 16-year-old to when he goes through Mama Said Knock You Out, that era. That's that transition from hip hop going from old school, from where we go on break beats to the golden era of hip hop. He's that bridge to what with that late 80s, early 90s golden bridge, the bridge of the solo rap star. Okay. He redefined what it meant to be the solo rap star. And I think Kareem redefined scoring, the center position, and he was timeless. And LL's same thing. LL is, if you were picking, like LL's that dude.
Favorite LL song?
My favorite LL song is probably still gonna be Rock the Bells. it's still gonna be Rock the Bells. Nothing feels like Rock the Bells. Like there are other songs that I would jam, but Rock the Bells takes you back. It takes me, or I'm bad. You give me I'm bad too. Just
I'm bad is crazy. When I can't think of the documentary, the Bulls when they were playing the Jordan clips, I'm bad. Oh my God, goosebump hair just standing up on my yo, this is incredible.
And that whole thing, that album, when he comes out and he's standing up on top of the bins on the cover, and the whole thing, it was that's the epitome of what a rap star is supposed to be. Everything that he made the transition to movies. You know what I'm saying? When he was young, he did the TV thing. What hasn't LL done? He's been a host. Everything that Snoop did, has done. LL did that stuff too. But LL did it and was still street credible, but made it into the mainstream too. And you can't deny that dude's power as far as like an influence. Like that dude is the original as far as it wasn't Curtis Blow. You know what I'm saying? Like as far as like people were called pattern after, it wasn't even Kool Moe Dee, who I love and was one of my first favorite rappers. LL is what everybody is still trying to be. Every solo rapper, that's what you're trying to be as LL. That's why I don't work for Drake. They don't work for Drake because he's faking it. You know what I'm saying? That part about beating for the lady stuff is fake. It's fake.
Ladies love Cool James, man. Say out to James Todd Smith. Give me all right, number 2.
My number 2 player is gonna be Jordan. And then I think for hip hop, then that's Rakim. Jordan is the Rakim. The God. As far as like Rakim is the evolution of the MC as far as skill and that power, the intimidation factor, like his voice. You hear Rakim's voice. Are you gonna get on a record with Rakim? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you, after he says anything, he can read the phone book and you're like, I'm sorry, I can't follow that. I can't follow that. You know what I'm saying? And that's Jordan. Jordan is the show. You talk about what can he not do? What can Rakim not do? He is the God MC for a reason. Jordan is the God. They call him Black Jesus.
Black Jesus. Yeah.
So there you go. It's Rakim and Jordan.
Favorite Rakim song?
My favorite Rakim song. It's either Eric B. is President or the reason I love Juice, Know the Ledge, so much is number one, it's the only 3-verse song he does. He has no other 3-verse songs in his entire repertoire. And I didn't know that he had played the drums on that record.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that either.
He played the drums on that record. And it is a story, and it is lyrically adept, and the beat is haunting.
I got enough to go around, and it all takes place up to yeah. I hit a drum. Doom, 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 doom. Oh, that comes on so mean. Yeah. I literally can't hear it, but I'm visually like, I've heard it so many times. So it's like, man, the thing, like the crazy thing about him, his run was so short as far as like album wise, but like his impact, it felt like.
I mean, it's literally a 3-album career, basically.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, it's so crazy what his influence. Number 3, and people get mad now because the more I've had to think about it, I've moved Bean up to 3, man. I've moved Bean up to 3, and it took me a while to be able to admit that to myself.
Mm-hmm.
But it kept coming down to, if I had to play, if aliens came down from another planet, who am I getting? And it is Bean, dude. That dude will die for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want that dude. He would die for it. And I firmly believe that again, we got robbed of basically 3 years of him after the Achilles. You know what I mean? The end was not what it should have been. But the exclamation point was so amazing though, at the very end. And I'm gonna say this, though it doesn't make sense longevity wise, but I'm gonna say this as far as skill and impact, and why one of the people that I think is so great in hip hop, and if they had not been, um, you know, he's big. He's big
Okay.
because, like, Big didn't get to do it forever, certainly, but I don't think I think people reflexively will go like Big is the greatest of all time and stuff like that, but I think it's more of a conversation. Depending on where you are, on who you're from, some people it's still gonna be Pac, it's gonna be Eminem, whatever. So it's not about being the greatest, but Big was one of them dudes like as far as take your heart as a rapper, it's and then to be able to do everything. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're talking about footwork, Big got footwork. As far as the fundamentals, all the fundamentals of rap, whether it came from enunciation, whether it came from storytelling, whether it comes from being able to do metaphors, whether it comes from being able to, whatever it is, change up stylistically and rhythmically, whether it's to tell a story about being a lover and be believable in that, even if people think that and then also to be self-referential. Like he could do all of those things well and still give you tremendous lyrical content. And then beyond that, orchestrate things around him, create careers for others.
Yeah.
We are seeing the byproduct of Kobe Bryant. You know what I'm saying? Like that mentality of Kobe Bryant, but there's also nobody else doing that. You know what I'm saying? There's also nobody else doing that. They all talk about it.
Nah, they don't live
it. They all revere it, but ain't nobody doing it. There's nobody doing what Big did.
Can you believe we've had 7 months without an NFL game? Crazy, right? Well, good thing that's over. NFL's here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving you a can't-miss offer. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 on any NFL game. DraftKings is hooking everyone up with game day greatness. Download now and use code BOOT to sign up. New customers can take home $200 in bonus bets instantly just for betting $5. That's code BOOT. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours.
Now,
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
No. Go ahead. I'm listening.
If you're asking my favorite Big song, it's gonna be, I'll say the one that's most personal to me, and it's because it reminds me that I can't listen to it.
Okay.
And it's Suicidal Thoughts. It was a song that when I was in my darkest places in my life that I listened to. And I know now that if I feel like listening to it, I need to talk to somebody. So that song means something different to me.
Mm-hmm. All right. So hold on. Before you go to 4, why do people, Kobe's my Mike is Mike, right? Like Mike is Mike. I'm a little bit too young to have actually seen Kareem. Like I've seen the footage, I know the stats, but like I didn't, like it's some different seeing it day in, day out, like it's on TV. Like I got to see.
He was Mike. The first, like Dr. J was slowing down when I became aware, but Kareem still had him, the 80s I got to watch them play all the time. Of course, the Lakers were on all the time.
Yeah. And so for me, and it's so funny. Grubb, I swear, like you're in every conversation Chris and I have had, whether it be like a phone call or a text. Like I feel like this conversation is like that. Anyways, I was telling him, so Kobe's my favorite player. Kobe's my favorite player of all time. But it's so funny when you get on the internet or you talk to people, the knock on Kobe is, oh, he just wanted to be like Mike. And I'm trying to figure out what's the problem in wanting to be like Mike.
I think skill-wise he wanted to be like Mike, but mentally they're completely different people.
Yeah.
Their approaches were completely different. Michael was about competition and destroying you for the sake of competition. Like you see Michael cheating at cards and this and that, and paying people to make sure his bags came. That shit wasn't on Kobe's mind. You know what I'm saying? Them little kind of victories, that wasn't on Kobe's mind. Kobe was trying to figure out all the ways he viewed basketball as a problem to be solved. And I think that's why he was able to put it away so easily. You know what I'm saying? Like when he was done with it, I'm done with it. But for Jordan, that competition, that fuel, that need is very different.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that, you know, people talk skill-wise, why would you not look at the guy who's fundamentally, again, as strong? But Kobe was also very different in what he did too. You're just looking at, I can put pictures of Kevin Durant next to George Gervin at times and be like, yeah, they look the same. You know what I mean? I can show you similar moves. I can give you Steph and Zeke. I can do these things if you really want me to dig into it. You know what I mean? We can find those patterns, but it was because Kobe came along while Jordan was still there. LeBron never had to play against Jordan.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But Jordan came along, like who did people compare Jordan to? Doc.
Doc, right.
Because Jordan came along right while Doc was retiring. And Kobe came along right at the end of Jordan's career.
Long live Bean, man. Who you got? Who you got for number 4?
I acknowledge LeBron as 4.
Okay.
And my rap comparison to LeBron is Eminem.
Wow. Okay.
Technically, there is nothing wrong with Eminem.
No, I agree.
Technically, there's nothing wrong. He's giving you great albums, right? Giving you great albums. He's giving you some duds. He's giving you some dud albums, right? Some disappointments. He's had moments where you just like, you know, you get kind of tired of his stuff. You know what I mean? At different times, you got tired of his shtick.
Yeah. And
you're ready for him to move on to something else. Like, but you can't deny that he's great at what he does. I go back and forth. No, actually, I'm gonna take that back. LeBron is Jay-Z.
Okay.
Because I'll take this out. Jay, this is why I'll say LeBron is Jay.
Okay.
The manicurization of their lives.
Yeah.
The cleaning up of the dirty stuff. The making sure that it always is presented in a certain way. There is a certain inauthenticity. When we talked about that in the beginning, I always feel a certain inauthenticity about LeBron James. I don't think LeBron James is a bad person. I don't think LeBron James is a bad father or a bad husband. I don't know him like that.
Absolutely.
But there's something that feels like orchestrated and coordinated about him. It feels unreal.
Like a plan.
And I don't like the copying. I don't like making Space Jam 2. Like it tells me something about you. You know what I'm saying? I don't like remaking House Party and inserting yourself into it. And people say those are quibbles. I'm not talking about his school. I ain't worried about that. You know what I'm saying? Like his charitable work. I'm talking about the things that I think he does and the need to constantly tell people how great he is. The argument should be made by others. I have never heard Jordan say I'm the greatest. I've never heard Kobe say I'm the greatest. I never heard Kareem say I'm the greatest. I have had so many people around LeBron and from LeBron himself have to tell why he's the greatest. Why do you feel that you have to defend yourself? Why are you not more secure in your place? And I feel like Jay-Z is one of those people who's like that, who is not secure in his place, man. He is not secure in his place.
That's beautiful. That's so good, man. That's so good. I feel the exact same way. Like
look, his whole career, isn't Jay-Z gonna be always in the shadow of other people? Really? No matter what, he's in the shadow of other people.
Listen, I'm saying this for the sake of we were talking rappers, we were talking storytellers. As great as Jay is, Jay is so close to Vince Carter to me. Like, I understand he gave you the blueprint, he did this, he did that. Jay had so much talent in me, but he wanted the hits. He didn't do the little thing. Nas my favorite rapper. Nas, I was having this conversation literally with Chris earlier. The back half of Nas's career, somebody tweeted this the other day.
Oh yeah, his last few albums.
Listen, somebody said the other day, Nas's last 5 or 6 albums have been all incredible, right? And they said if anybody wanted to call Nas their GOAT, whatever, like I see the argument. I was saying that back in 2001. Like I was like, how y'all? For one, this man rapped backwards. He rapped backwards. He rapped a song backwards. Stayed on track. Stayed on, like, literally would rap a bar, then say it back. Like tell the story. Told the story from the beginning. I mean, at the end to the beginning. Like, that's not normal. You don't get people not doing that.
Talent-wise, Nas would be, I guess talent-wise, Nas or Wayne would be LeBron James. You know, like that kid that was supposed to be great, and you could always tell they were great, and you were just like, you just got to make it. You got to end up at the top.
Yeah.
You just got to get there. And they both did. You know what I'm saying? Like, Nas delivered maybe the greatest debut album of all time. The only, like, the debut album that people sleep on that I think goes right up there with Nas's, DOC. No one could do it better.
Oh, no one could do it better.
Tell me the skip song. No one could do it better.
Man, listen.
Tell me a skip. Tell me a skip.
There's not one.
The beats are great, right? The beats are great.
The beats are immaculate. Matter of fact, hold on.
The lyrics are sick. And it's a gangster rap album where up until the last song where NWA comes on, there may be 10 total curses. Go listen to it again. He barely curses, but it's still gangster as hell. That's how good the DOC was.
I didn't even really realize that. The crazy thing about the DOC's album, I know it came out in like 89 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what game it was. It was either a Madden or a 2K that had the formula on it. And this was like early 2000, maybe 2003. It got me hooked on that song. I had to go back because obviously 89, like I wasn't listening to the DOC, but it's like I went back. I study things. Like I need to know. I had older cousins. I had older siblings. Well, older sister. I needed to know like what they were listening to. Like my cousin would tell me about Ice Cube. He would tell me about, I wasn't old enough to hear Death Certificate or understand it when it first came out, but I need to go back and hear these things. I think that's what's wrong. We were talking about music earlier. I think that's what's wrong. There is no creation. It's all imitation, and I listened to this guy NLE Chopper the other day remake Nelly's Hot in Here. That shit is trash. Like, should not even be able to touch that song. Why are you doing that? Like, leave it where it is. I don't know. But anyway, the DOC, yes, the greatest tragedy that ever. One of the greatest tragedies that happened in music was him losing his voice.
He's a Lim Bias of rap.
Wow.
He's a Lim Bias of rap.
Damn. Grub, you got some great comparisons.
Bro, he came out the year, like I said, 1989, man. Like, that's when everybody was hitting. And he, again, think about who the most influential voices on the West Coast. He's still the godfather of Death Row. It was his idea. You know what I'm saying? Like, he brings the idea to Suge and Dre. It's his idea. Who's the ghostwriter for all of Death Row Records? Him and Corrupt.
Yep.
Like, his imprint is on every record, every major West Coast rap record that came out from Ruthless or Death Row. His fingerprints are somewhere on that. Like, the dude his influence is eternal. He taught Snoop how to write bars. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of stuff. And we sleep on him because he cannot speak the way that we're used to. And so we diminish people in that regard. But that dude is that's a legend, man. That is a legend.
Straight up, shout out to Dallas, Texas, man.
Think about that, dude. That from Dallas to Compton to the world to the his that Texas sound of his voice. You can hear the influence in Snoop. Snoop's twang is very Texan.
Yep. He had the DLC had such a it was wow. Now I'm looking at it. Snoop incorporated a lot of his style, a lot of his mannerisms. The DLC was so smooth. He was so cool. Like even like his movements in videos, like he could be erratic one moment, and then he was just like, yeah, man. You're right. The world is a lot of like, what have you done for me lately? And if you can't produce those particular things, like life happens. He got in a car accident, unfortunately, and I think he severed a vocal cord
before the album even dropped.
Nah, I did not know that.
Before the album even dropped.
Damn, so he couldn't.
He didn't get to enjoy it.
Damn, I did not know that.
He never got to tour the record. He never got to perform them songs for people, man. Like everything got taken from that man in a moment. You know what I'm saying? And I can't speak on, again, people getting accidents. You can't speak, but I'm just saying artistically what we lost as a society. At least he could still write, but what his voice could have done. Because it's different when it comes from.
Imagine him on death row, like with that roster, like with him and Pac, you know what I'm saying? Wow. Okay. Wait, Jay-Z song. Give me a Jay-Z song.
Can't Be Life. Can't Be Life. Either that or Brooklyn's Finest. Because I think his best album is always going to be his first album.
I do too. I'm in a minority here. I hate the beat on Brooklyn. I hate it. I absolutely hate the beat on Brooklyn's Finest. Like it's a travesty. I hate it. I know.
It's not a great beat. It's about the wordplay.
Yeah.
Like I love the wordplay.
Yeah. Who do you think had the better verse?
Oh, Big by far.
Okay.
Like Jay gets bodied so regularly, it's not even funny. Like it's not. You remember that viral clip of the dude who went through the whole thing and said Jay was never the hottest artist out?
Yeah.
Was he lying?
I mean, I'm biased because I've said that so many times that people think I'm a Jay hater.
I'm not a hater though. I'm not a hater. I bought the records, not all of them.
See, this is my thing.
I ain't buy all of them.
This is my thing. I know every Jay-Z song there is. I know the lyrics to them. I can rap them to you verbatim. So when I say stuff and people call me a hater, I'm like, I'm just telling my truth. I'm not a hater. I think if you recognize Jay as the GOAT, which a lot of people do, I have no problem with that because he got the accolades and he got the music to back it up. I have no problem with that.
I think the thing for me is though, like again, Jay's creative peak was really brief. You know, you get to Blueprint, that's the peak, right?
Mm-hmm.
First album, Reasonable Doubt, is still what I think is the best.
It is.
But Volume 1 was not good. That was not a good album.
It's ass.
It's not a good album.
It was ass.
Volume 2 is a 3-single album. It's a 3-single album. It's a lot of bad records on that album. It's just that the highs, people remember the highs again. And so Jay's greatness, remember he started making records that were not Jay-Z albums. The Rock La Familia record is not a Jay-Z record. That's everybody's on that record. The record, you know what I'm saying? Like he started, so these albums, these hot summer albums, wasn't Jay-Z albums till the Blueprint. Then he comes back with the Blueprint.
I got a take that I'm willing to publicly say. I have, you talk about Jay-Z as a superstar in rap, which, whatever. I can't say Jay is a superstar Oh, and this is perfect to go into basketball, but I can't say Jay's a superstar because Jay has not sold out an arena by himself. He always had a co-headliner.
You know who I would compare Jay in that regard?
Who
Another,
that?
it's not a basketball analogy, it'd be a football analogy. Emmitt Smith.
Wow. Okay.
Emmitt Smith got the all-time rushing record, right?
Yep.
And Jay is like, I sold out Madison Square Garden, all this. Do you have any? Do you think? And Emmitt Smith got rings and rushing titles and played for the most glamorous franchise in all of sports, right? Dallas Cowboys. Jay was the king of Def Jam records, all these things, perfect. But if you rank in my favorite running backs, I'm gonna get a ways before I get to Emmitt Smith.
It's a ton of them. Barry the GOAT for me. Barry,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it. There are dudes who don't have half as many yards as Emmitt Smith that I would rather watch run the football than Emmitt Smith. Though Emmitt Smith, I cannot deny what he did. I cannot argue with that production. I cannot deny the results. But do I really enjoy?
No. It was
Like,
very
Jay
bland.
is not interesting on stage. Jay is whack on stage. That's all the people around Jay are better. Like, Beans is better on stage. Bleak talked like he was with urgency every moment that he's on. Kanye is clearly a better stage performer than Jay. Who is Jay a better stage performer than? His wife is a better draw than he is. And I'm not saying that to just a man versus a woman. I'm just telling you, like you said, there's no tour. There's no tour that if Big or Pac did a single tour by themselves and they were the main act, they could sell out arenas. They could sell out arenas.
Absolutely.
Jay can't sell out an arena on a tour by himself.
Absolutely. And again, this is not hate. This is our truth. This is Jay truth for us. This is Lito and Grubb, and we're telling our truth. So please don't come in you come in the comment section. That's fine. And I'm not about to tell you because like this is jargon I've been saying my whole life, and it's so cool to like have a conversation with somebody like, all right, 5. Who you got?
5. I'm putting Magic Johnson as the 5th.
Irvin. Okay.
Put Magic as the 5th, and then I think I'll say I put Magic in a way. I guess he would be. Magic could be like your Nas, man.
All right.
Because what we talk about Nas, the perfect debut. Magic, perfect debut. You come in, you win an NBA championship, Finals MVP. You're like you are unique. Like Magic is just like as Nas was the golden child of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like that the Wonderkin. That's Magic. That's Magic.
Mm-hmm.
Nas is the dude who made New York, the individual in New York, matter again. You know what I'm saying? Like we had groups in New York at that time, but the individual New York rapper hadn't come back. Magic made the West Coast basketball matter again. Because the Lakers didn't matter. You know, they hadn't won a championship before in years, since 72, before he got back there. So in that way, you know, there's obviously temperament and slinging, is Johnson all over the place, you know, very different dudes in that regard, you know. But I guess Magic would have enjoyed Uchi Wally. I guess, you know, he would have enjoyed Uchi Wally. You know.
What's your favorite Nas? Oh, he definitely would have. He definitely would have been in the "You Owe Me Some" video. he would have been.
Beyonce's in that video. That's why they don't show it anymore. You notice they don't. 2 videos that you never see. You never see Case's video.
She was in that. I remember that.
And you never. Oh, the other one. You never. They banned the version of "I Gotta Be" from your boys from Atlanta. What's the name? Jagged Edge. When Destiny's Child is in the original version of that video.
Wow.
They banned that version because they did it without Daddy's permission. So the protection of the image.
That's crazy.
What's my favorite Nas song?
What's your favorite Nas song?
New York State of Mind. New York State of Mind. It's so grimy, bro. I can hear that beat just coming in. It's so grimy. I love that song. And I think it's one that most people wouldn't pick. I don't think. I think people would pick other ones, but that's mine.
I mean, that album is just, I don't know. All right, Cash Money or No Limit?
Oh, it's got to be Cash Money.
Okay.
Because No Limit was a money-making venture that had a few rappers. You feel me?
Yeah.
Cash Money was a rap label.
Yeah.
It was a legitimate rap. Like, his job was, No Limit was a family business that had some rappers. Like, the amount of actual rappers on No Limit, of dudes that and women, like,
it's very slim. Yeah.
The ratio is, how many whack rappers came through Cash Money? Legit. Like where you just like, with Cash, how many?
I can't, I mean, off the top of my head, I could.
How many gimmicks would you say were on No Limit, though?
Oh, No Limit had a lot of gimmicks.
Because
you know what it is? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, like, to me, the greatest rappers on No Limit, you know, you ain't calling, I don't think anybody's gonna call P a great rapper.
No.
So to me, it's Mia X. Like, you could anybody, Mia, as far as New Orleans rappers, Mia should be in your top 5. As far as her skills go.
Yeah.
She may not have all the hits in the world.
She could
flow for flow. Mia tear it down. Snoop was a legitimate rapper. Mystical was a legitimate rapper. But Mystical wasn't discovered by No Limit. Mystical came to
No Limit. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, there were a few.
And Mac went to jail.
Mac, and, you know, C Murder. But ain't nobody. Silk? When's the last time you put on a Silk record, bro?
Nepotism.
When's the last time you put on a Silk record?
The crazy thing about so Silk got, the thing is, Silk has songs, but it's not because of Silk. It's because of the features on the song.
Or the beat.
Silk is not somebody I'm ever trying to listen to. And I'm a Cash Money baby. That was like, I literally just grew up into it, seeing it, and that was just, for me, creatively, artistically. You were saying like authentication. We were talking about that earlier. Like, it don't get no more New Orleans than that. Like, it don't get no more.
I mean, their introduction, if your first real reference to it is Juvenile with 400 Degrees, that's New Orleans, bro. That's the most New Orleans video you ever gonna see in your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's them dudes. Every video they made before they got money, it was the most New Orleans ass videos. Like, that's the way dudes from New Orleans cut videos. Like, that just, the cuts didn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? It was random to play, but the places, the way people stood, the way that they were dressed, like, there was no cleaning it up. There was no fakeness about it. Like, just Juvenile, his stomach is like out. Like, he has a stomach. When do you see rappers standing, like, unless they fat dudes who just didn't care? A dude who's trying to be hard, that's New Orleans. Dudes in New Orleans, how many of them have you seen standing on the block, no shirt on, don't care what their stomach look like, run up on them if you want.
Man, that was beautiful. Like, that was a time, that was an era. I was happy to be, even though I couldn't do anything. I was a kid, but I'm just glad I was able to see that. Like, that was just, it was something special. You know what I'm saying? I feel bad for these kids who didn't get a chance to experience like Cash Money at their height, like taking over the world, being from where we from. You know, like, it was just special.
I mean, I was having a conversation with DJ Wick, and we were talking about how New Orleans was special musically because we got so much hip hop compared to the rest of the South. Like, where I went to other places. Like, I had family in Houston, I had family in Birmingham. They wasn't hearing the music that I was hearing. Because in New Orleans, for some reason, DJs had connections in California, DJs had connections in New York. New Orleans is an international city, and they always had stuff. So I quite literally always was on time as the eras of hip hop came on. I was never late. And so even in New Orleans stuff, MC Thick, DJ Jubilee, all that stuff, like, I remember being in junior high and passing those tapes around and stuff like that. And just, I remember recording the Hot 888 off our cassette player, because you wanted, like, had to have the Hot 888, or wait until after 10 o'clock on Q93 when Wayne back then would play stuff that you had never heard before, before all the corporate programming and everything. And so I heard New York stuff. I heard Oakland music. I heard Too Short. I heard, like, Sir Mix-a-Lot. I heard all that in New Orleans, and I know my friends in other places weren't hearing that stuff.
Yep. It's funny you say that. I remember that, and I try to tell people that, like, after 9, 10 o'clock, the radio would and it would play explicit. It would be explicit music. It would be like the it would be the explicit stuff. And
for the long version, it would be like the 16-inch version of the record that went on for 6 minutes instead of the radio edit for 3. It was
a beautiful time. My greatest disappointment in life is never being able to get on the 9 o'clock props. I so wanted to be on the 9 o'clock props. That was, matter of fact, I just talked to Austin Levy. I told him to put me in contact with Wild Wayne. I need to talk to Wayne. Like, I have so many questions about just music in general. Like, man, he's seen so much. Like,
I'll send you Wayne's number.
Please, man. I shot Wayne a DM. The crazy thing is, I told him, I know Wayne in real life when I see him, but it's like when he see me, you know me. Man. I know. Yeah, I can imagine. It's all good. Like, we'll get there. All right, this is my last music question, because we got to talk basketball, because that's what the people been asking me for. You're stranded on a desert island. You can only bring 5 albums. What you got?
Of any genre or just hip hop?
Any genre.
Taking A Nation of Millions to Hold Me Back. Public Enemy. I'm taking Off the Wall.
Oh, MJ. Okay.
Because I think that's my favorite Michael Jackson album, is Off the Wall. I'm taking Life After Death.
Okay.
Big, so that's 3. I'm taking the Janet album.
Rhythm Nation?
No, the Janet album.
Oh, the Janet. I'm sorry.
The one with Anytime, Any Place, that. Gotta have a female voice, bro. Gotta have a female voice.
Absolutely.
I'm on an island, bro. I gotta have some kind of woman, to listen to at some point. I can't just be listening to angry dudes and murder all day. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I got Mike to help me out, and make it a little lighter. And then over on the other side, I got his sister. Oh no, that's kind of weird now. Now that feels weird.
I don't know.
I'm listening to Mike and his sister. Oh no. Okay. So do I have to kick I gotta kick Mike out because I'm keeping Janet. Okay. I hate kicking Mike out, but I'm keeping Janet. So I'm bringing in Prince. Now. All right. So I'm bringing in Prince. And I'm gonna take not Purple Rain. I'm gonna take and double albums don't count. Like no compilations. I hate when people do that. Like if they take the greatest hits, you can't do that. Okay, no problem. So I'm taking what's the one that the concert movie Prince? How am I forgetting it? I'm forgetting the one that's a door, and I'll never take the place of your man, and you know what I'm talking about?
Sign of the Times. It's
Sign of the Times. That's it.
All right.
I'm taking Sign of the Times with me. I'm taking that album because it's a long album, but it's not a fake double. It's not a greatest hits album.
All right, so we got Nation of Millions, A Sign of the Times, Life After Death, Janet. One more.
So number five, let's see. I'm gonna take something from real old school. I'm gonna go super old school, something to relax me, take me back to my childhood, make me feel good. I'm gonna take Temptations, the Get Ready album. I used to listen to it Sunday mornings when my dad was making breakfast, and I love the Temptations. The Temptations was like the Temptations were the first group. Like in 1984, I'm 9 years old, and when Motown 25 came out, like the Temptations were my favorite group. Like these grown ass men. That's how different a time it is. Because kids now, there's no way that would be their favorite group. That was my favorite group. It was them, New Edition, and the Jacksons. Like that was my groups.
I'm gonna have to find that album. I've never heard that album. So I'm going to find that album right now, and I'm going to make sure I listen to it.
I mean, the Temptations got so many like different records. Like, I mean, the different eras too. You go to David Ruffin era, then of course you got the my man was my man. Oh dang, I hate when I forget people's names. Dennis Edwards era.
Dennis Edwards.
That's what grown men sang like grown men. You know what I'm saying? Jeffrey Osborne.
Let me ask you this: What did Harold Melvin ever do? What did he do?
He was the lead singer.
Okay.
So they had hits.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like he was actually the lead singer for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But that's why he hated Teddy Pendergrass though.
I could tell.
Hated him. They tried, like the group still went on after Teddy left. It was still Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. They just nobody gave a damn.
Yeah, they. Just funny you say Life After Death, because I don't feel like people give Life After Death is props. Like the progression in his, even though it was a short time, but his growth in lyricism, storytelling, like that. You're nobody till somebody kills you is just like, man.
Long Kiss Goodnight.
Oh my God, like. Da, na, 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 na. Like I don't think man, Big was just gonna be man.
Like you talk about just the agility lyrically. What again? That's like if he didn't look like that, you know what I'm saying? And like he had to turn that into his thing. Because he don't have the energy to be running back and forth across the stage and do all this. So he had to create that persona. But if you have all of that other stuff, like, I mean, look at Heavy D. Look at the difference for Heavy D and the longevity of his career. And that was a big man that could move.
That dude was moving. He was dancing and spinning. Yep.
If you big and you move, you know what I'm saying? Like the Fat Boys got pigeonholed. And see, people think Fat Boy is a joke. Go listen to their original records when they did Disco 3. When they did Disco 3 before they become a novelty and quite frankly, white record executives go, let's put the fat guys out there and be funny with them. Them dudes was rappers. It was hard. Like for that time, you know what I'm saying? Like they wasn't talking about but as like lyrics at that time, come on, man.
I'm gonna find it. Okay. All right. I appreciate the knowledge. I am writing all of this stuff down because I am going to listen. I am a student of the game and I dissect all of this stuff.
How You Like Me Now, Kumo D. That record. That's rap beef right there. The album cover. One of the greatest album covers in all of hip hop.
He's standing on the glasses.
But the wheel of his Jeep is on LL's hat.
Oh, I never paid attention to
that.
that.
It's the Kango. The front wheel of his Jeep is rolling over LL's Kango.
Oh, hold on. Oh man. I get okay. Yo, that's cold. Oh, that's cold. I never paid attention to that. Oh, he was fitted up too. He had the Kango with the tracksuit.
Come on, bro.
With the gold shit. Come on, Kumo D.
The white Jeep. Come on, bro.
Kumo D was clean.
Come on, bro.
I like this. Hold on. I like this. We gonna have to hold on. Let me see if I could show the people who eventually gonna watch this what I'm talking about. I don't know if I could save it or not.